Chinese story you're all likely to have heard. There was a Chinese farmer whose horse ran away. His neighbors expressed sympathy, saying how sorry they were for him. He responded with, "We don't know what's good or bad." The next day, the horse came back with 7 more horses. And his neighbors said, "What good fortune, look at you." And he said, "We don't know what's good or bad." The next day, his son was riding one of the new horses and he fell off and he broke his leg. And the neighbors, who seem to be hanging around this guy's house quite a lot, say, "Oh, I'm so sorry." And he says, "Look, have you not learned? We don't know what's good or bad." And the next day, the army comes marching through to take all the young men to fight in foreign wars, but the son has a broken leg, so they leave him behind. And again, the farmer turns to the ever-present neighbors and says, "We don't know what's good or bad." So every Sunday, we gather for an hour to lean into something. We feed our souls with music and prayer. We look into each other's faces, greet each other, shake hands, hug each other sometimes. We call each other by name. And we sink into an idea. The great American writer Ralph Waldo Emerson said the true preacher, who, just to note, he assumed was male, the true preacher deals out to the people his life passed through the fire of thought. So there's a reason I'm telling you that. I had a plan for today, but when the worship team got together on Wednesday, the mood was hot off the election and feeling like it was hard to focus on much else with everything happening in the country, which is fair. Yes, we can pivot. It's why we're here. We are in a moment, and what are we doing here if we're not reflecting on all the implications of now, passing life through the fire of thought? But unlike a year ago when we gathered in this same place, also in response to a consequential election, our experience, our attention might not be as unified today. 1 year ago, we gathered in grief and fury. It was so intense, we reworked the next Sunday so that we can just keep processing. We needed to continue that conversation because it felt like the nation as we knew it was collapsing, and we weren't wrong. 1 year later, the experience is a little bit different. There's a collective sense of relief from the left that the system hasn't been impossibly rigged, that the protests weren't for nothing, that there's still a sign of progressive life. 1 year later, we know all is not lost. Hope seems to have found her way back to New York City. Definitely getting a few like, yes, it has. I imagine. I'm not saying there's nothing to celebrate here. I'm saying I hear you. Hope has found her way back to New York City. And what we saw, not just here, but around the country, was a clear rebuke of the establishment, of corruption culture, and certainly here in the city of the power of money. A younger generation was heard. Mamdani showed us a new model for campaigns, one defined by vertical video and on-the-street accessibility. He offered to us a politics of friendship and a smile of resistance. And he named for us what we've been needing someone to say. Living here is wonderful and also horrible. And it's become so difficult, so expensive. People are moving further and further out, putting us at risk of losing the texture created by so many different kinds of people who are being pushed out by the unaffordability of it all. He mirrored for us what we've been saying, and he said he's going to take some risks, push some boundaries, throw himself into trying to make life here just a little more possible. It felt refreshing and affirming and it brought hope to city life. It feels a little to me like the night Obama was elected. You feel that too? And it feels like a vote for the new, both in what he says, but also in who he is. Right? Both men of color, both young, when elected to their positions, their very being feels like the gateway to the pluralistic future we can feel like right at the tips of our outstretched hands. Which is why I'm also just a little bit trepidatious. A little like the Chinese farmer who gets the celebration, but also knows we don't know what's good or bad. Obama's election was, in some real ways, the culmination of the American progressive agenda going back 150 years. The ceiling was finally cracked. Generations of Americans fought in almost countless ways in every arena to make that possible. And after shifting and expanding and challenging and breaking and repairing American society an infinite number of times, we reached the apex of that effort. A black man was moving into the White House. And Obama did a lot when he was there. He created a soft landing to the financial crisis. He got nearly every country on board for an ambitious climate agreement. And he delivered on the age-old promise of creating a more accessible and affordable healthcare system. But the racism we thought was ending only got worse. And our economic system continued to support the movement of money from poor to the rich. And we continued to occupy land in the Middle East. And our immigration system was left to crumble, so that when those 8 years were over, we saw a dramatic overreaction in the election of Trump. Progressives were given a chance to show them what we've got, and in the end, even we were a little disappointed. So I'm not trying to try Obama's case. I'm simply offering a note of caution. We can't just celebrate a progressive win and walk away. We don't know what's good and bad. Today, there's hope. And hope is an action word. We don't just feel hope or have hope. We plan, we organize, we push through, we live out of hope. The blue wave is a sign of life. But there's a balance in American society, and certainly in this giant multiracial, multicultural, multinational, multi-generational, multi-religious city of 8.3 million residents. That balance has been carefully honed over 400 years, but sometimes we see cracks in the surface. And this city is just a city in the state of New York, but it's also an international city with eyes on us from all over the planet. And some of those eyes want to see cracks deepen and broaden. Even without the outside pressure, we have to be vigilant. There are accusations of anti-Semitism for which there is no evidence or actual cause for worry. But facts don't always matter. Accusations can be equally or even more dangerous. The ADL came out of the gate with fingers pointing and swords ready to fight. While the rest of us are hopeful and open, they decided they are the neighbors who know what's bad. Nonetheless, there is reason to celebrate. And there's work to be done. Rebecca Solnit tells us causes and effects assume history marches forward, but history is not an army. It's a crab scuttling sideways, a drip of soft water wearing away stone, an earthquake breaking centuries of tension. Sometimes one person inspires a movement, or her words do decades later. Sometimes a passionate few people change the world. Sometimes they start a mass movement, and millions do. Sometimes those millions are stirred by the same outrage and the same ideal, and change comes upon us like the change of weather. All that these transformations have in common is they begin in the imagination, in hope. To hope is to gamble. It's to bet on the future, on your desires, on the possibility that an open heart and uncertainty are better than gloom and safety. To hope is dangerous. And yet it is the opposite of fear. For to live is to risk. I say this to you because hope is not like a lottery ticket you can sit on the sofa and clutch feeling lucky. I say this because hope is an axe, and you break down doors with it in an emergency. Because hope should show you out the door, because it will take everything we have to steer the future. Hope just means another world might be possible, not promised, not guaranteed. Hope is our call to action. What we have right now is the joy and luxury and instruction of hope. We don't know what will happen, but there is suddenly a spaciousness, suddenly room for us to imagine a way forward. Resistance was not futile. We organized, we protested, we influenced, we took to social media, we took to the streets, and we found a way through. So I'm not going to be a downer. Celebration is appropriate. There are things we value that a million other people in this city say they value too. I also don't want us to rest on the wind, to see a blue wave and decide to take the year off. I suspect the ride is going to get bumpier. American individualism sometimes conspires with messianic culture to set us up to see a person, a leader, as the end, the rescuer, the one who will make all things right. We don't have a savior, we have a mayor. Hopefully a bold, out-of-the-box thinker who will address the fragile economics of city life in new and effective ways, and who can help the party to welcome a broader coalition, a younger generation, and a more genuinely progressive platform. The task before us, our task as a community of faith, is to gather up all that hope and put it to work, to use it as an axe to break down doors, to let it propel us into unforged land where we dig out a new path. We aren't going to rely on any political leader. We will support, we will cheer, and we will stay true to our values. Because the song that's fighting to be sung, the new world that's pushing to be born, is moving through us. There is no savior. There is not clarity about good and bad, and time doesn't stand still long enough for those judgments to matter anyway. We have a little room to breathe. We have more partners in the resistance. But the beauty of this world needs us to protect it, even maybe especially now. There is no apex in history. The story keeps moving, scuttling, dripping, shifting side to side, forward, back, and around again. Take a breath, take a beat, then pick up your axe, because we've got doors to break through.